How many repentant sinners does it take to show that God's kingdom is here? That was our big question on Sunday, if you remember, as we thought about the 10 lepers. Look, quite a disappointing passage on first glance. 90% of those Jesus healed not turning to him and acknowledging who he was. Only one receiving true salvation from Jesus. But you remember how we said that was actually really helpful to see? That even Jesus' ministry wasn't always met with as big a response as we might have expected. And so we don't need to worry that in our ministry we might have got the gospel message wrong when we see few people responding to Jesus in the West today. Sometimes the kingdom of God will look smaller than we might hope for in this phase of history while we wait for Jesus to return. In answer to the Pharisees' question in verse 20, that's when the kingdom will come completely, in a really visibly impressive way, in all of its glorious fullness. But even now, he says to them, it is in the midst of you. And you can tell that by what happens to the Samaritan, this unlikeliest of people, putting his faith in Jesus, falling at his feet in praise and thanks, being saved not just from his leprosy, but from his sin. How many repentant sinners does it take to show that God's kingdom is here? Well, just one. I hope you found that as much of an encouragement as I have over the past week. I find it really easy to feel down about the fact that the Western church isn't bigger, and to forget just what a remarkable miracle it is that hopeless, lost sinners like us have been completely cleansed of our sin and welcomed into Jesus' kingdom. It made me really look forward to the baptisms that we're going to be having here at Easton in September. Baptisms are always such a joyful occasion, and part of what we'll be doing is rejoicing together that the Lord has brought another person into his kingdom. The kingdom is in our midst. I think individual stories of God's grace are just such an encouraging thing to share. I found it profoundly helpful and really moving to reread that story of Narsi, the cannibal murderer who turned to Christ. I really hope you'll be able to share some of your own stories too with one another tonight. You'll see that's what the last question on the sheet asks you to do. Do make sure you get onto that question and spend good time on it. Feel free to skip over some of the others if you need to do that. It would be great to build one another up with some of these stories.